Tell me if this sounds familiar. Your friend just got their third tattoo, your coworkers showing off their new sleeve. Your Instagram feed is literally a gallery of fresh ink. Meanwhile, you're sitting there with completely blank skin, and for some reason, people think you're the weird one. But here's the twist. Choosing to stay tattoo-free is way more psychologically complex than you'd think. And the numbers explain why it feels this way. Over 46% of millennials have at least one tattoo. That's almost half the generation walking around with ink. But here's the thing. While everyone's analyzing why people get tattoos, almost nobody talks about the people who don't. And trust me, their reasons reveal something pretty profound about human nature itself. Let's start with the obvious one, permanence. But wait, before you think, well, duh, let me blow your mind for a second. We live in a world where people will sign 30-year mortgages without blinking. Marriage? Sure, let's do it. Kids? Absolutely. Talk about permanent. But a small tattoo on their ankle? Oh no, that's too permanent. The psychology here is actually incredible. It's called future self-continuity, and it's this concept where some people have a really hard time connecting with their future selves. They literally cannot imagine being the same person in 20 years. To them, getting a tattoo feels like making a decision for a stranger who happens to share their body. And honestly, they might be onto something. Studies show that our personalities can shift dramatically over decades. That edgy skull you loved at 19, your 45-year-old self might have opinions about that choice. People without tattoos often have higher scores on something psychologists call temporal discounting awareness. Basically, they're really, really good at imagining future regret before it happens. It's not indecisiveness, it's future-focused thinking. But here's where it gets even weirder. Some people without tattoos have what researchers call a fluid identity orientation. Sounds fancy, right? Here's what it actually means. These individuals see themselves as constantly evolving works in progress. They don't want to cement any part of their identity because they're not done figuring out who they are. And get this, they might never feel done. Think about it. A tattoo is a statement. It says, this matters to me enough to make it permanent. But what if you're the kind of person who finds meaning in not making permanent statements? What if your whole philosophy is staying adaptable, changeable, free from past declarations about who you were or what you loved? There's actually a psychological concept that relates to this called identity foreclosure, when you commit to an identity without fully exploring who you are. People who avoid tattoos sometimes fear closing off future versions of themselves by making permanent choices in the present. But, plot twist, this isn't always healthy. Some psychologists suggest it can sometimes indicate a deeper fear of commitment or self-knowledge. Not always, but sometimes. The line between staying open to growth and avoiding self-definition can get pretty blurry. Now, before the tattoo-free crowd gets too defensive, let's talk about something most people won't admit. Social conformity and professional perception play a huge role here. Despite tattoos becoming more mainstream, there's still this subconscious calculation happening in some people's brains. They're running a cost-benefit analysis. Will this affect how I'm perceived professionally? Will my family approve? What will people think? And here's the kicker. People without tattoos tend to be more aware of social expectations and potential judgment. They care about controlling how others perceive them, and permanent body art feels like giving up some of that control. Research has shown that individuals who avoid tattoos often engage in what psychologists call impression management. They're strategic about how they present themselves to the world. They see tattoos as a variable they can't easily control once it's permanent. But let's be real for a second. Is this wisdom or anxiety? That's the million-dollar question. Some of these people are being strategic and thoughtful. Others might be limiting their self-expression because they're too worried about external judgment. The psychology here isn't good or bad. It's just revealing about how different people navigate social landscapes. But there's one more reason people skip tattoos that nobody talks about, and it's actually kind of beautiful. Some people view their tattoo-free skin as a conscious choice, not a lack of one. There's this whole philosophy around keeping your body as it came, not from a place of fear or judgment, but from genuine appreciation. It's almost like minimalism, but for your skin. These individuals see their unmarked body as a form of simplicity, a rejection of the need to add external symbols to express internal meaning. Psychologically, this often relates to something called intrinsic identity orientation, the belief that who you are exists independent of any external markers or symbols. These people don't need a tattoo to remind them what they love or who they are. They carry that stuff internally. And there's something kind of powerful about that, right? In a world that's constantly screaming, express yourself, stand out, make a statement, choosing not to participate is its own form of rebellion. But, and this is important, this philosophy only works when it's a genuine choice, not a rationalization for fear or indecision. The psychology is completely different depending on whether someone is choosing unmarked skin or just avoiding marked skin. Here's something that'll mess with your head. Some of the most meaningful people you'll ever meet don't have a single tattoo. And that's the paradox, isn't it? We've created this cultural narrative that tattoos equal depth, that ink equals meaning. But meaning doesn't need a medium. Some people experience profound connections to ideas, people, and moments without needing to etch them into their skin. They're not less attached, they're just differently attached. There's actually research on how memory works differently for different people. Some individuals process meaningful experiences by living them fully in the moment, not by creating permanent reminders. Their memories don't fade because they lacked a physical marker. If anything, the internal processing sometimes makes those memories more vivid. Think about it like this. You don't forget your mother's face because you don't have her tattooed on your arm. The absence of external symbols doesn't equal the absence of internal meaning. For some people, that's just how they operate with everything that matters to them. So here's the truth. The psychology of people who never get tattoos is just as complex, valid, and fascinating as the psychology of people who do. It's not about being boring or scared. It's about future thinking, identity fluidity, social awareness, and sometimes just a different philosophy about what it means to be yourself in your own skin. And maybe that's what makes this topic so interesting. We spend so much energy trying to figure out why people do things, why they get tattoos, why they make certain choices. But sometimes the absence of a choice reveals just as much about human psychology as the choice itself. Whether you're covered in ink or completely blank, the most important question isn't what you choose. It's whether you're making that choice consciously, authentically, and for yourself. Because at the end of the day, both paths are just different ways of answering the same question. Who am I, and how do I want to show up in this world? If this video made you think differently about tattoos, or the lack thereof, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel and dive deeper into psychology content like this, consider clicking join to become a member. It genuinely helps us keep making videos that challenge how you see the world.